It's back. Bombardier Outlander 330. Did some work on this before. He had it for about a year. Said he was riding it and it shut off, no power. So he was checking battery connectors, found the battery swollen. We don't have the old battery. Said he temporarily hooked up the new battery, which we have right here, and said it still had no power. So I think we popped a fuse, and it's possible maybe the regulator rectifier is bad, and that's why it swelled the battery up. It was overcharging it. So that is what we're going to tear into today. I know this thing needed the pilot jet tinkered with. I'm pretty sure I left it at like 4 turns out, and I thought it was running okay. He said it seems like it's just like has no power. It's like a dog on the bottom end. So we might be pulling that carb apart and upgrading that pilot jet. I know it had the wrong air filter on it. It's all right here behind this cover, and basically the boot on the air filter was the same size as the boot inside the air box, and instead of buying a new filter, he said, yeah, just whatever you can do if you can make it work. So I have an ABS coupler in there, so it's a reducer. It's actually killing the airflow, so we might get that addressed too, and then whatever else we find along the way. I remember all this back here was like really tight, and they had like coat hangers and stuff holding the battery on. So I mean, that's kind of ugly, but there's nothing wrong with that. Like, it's still crimped and everything. I know strands are broken, and doesn't look like anything was rubbing. So let's get the new battery hooked up, and then we'll just start it and we'll take a voltage reading on it. Here's your little life hack. Just take you like some cardboard or something, jam it up in here. That way these nuts, when you go to tighten them, and you got like winch cables and regular cables and all that, and there's like no room and you can't get them all the way down in there to pull the nut, it holds the nut to the top, keeps it in place. Alright, so got the voltmeter hooked up. I had that battery on the trickle charger just for a couple hours. I turned the key on and we got lights. Okay. Alright, it's already on. I guess let's see if it starts. Okay. Getting spark. Okay, well, I guess let's pull this plug and make sure that plug is actually getting spark then. Smells like gas, but it's not wet. Color looks okay. Alright, let's see. Yeah, looks okay. Okay, well then, I wonder if this thing has a fuel pump. I forget. Yeah, it's got to have a fuel pump because there's the gas tank back here. So I'm wondering if that fuel pump just needs to be primed up. So that's what we're gonna check next. It's my homemade clip that stayed on there. How about that? Yep, see my piece of ABS I got on there? Alright, so what we're gonna do then is we'll hold our hand on here. How about we pull this plug wire so that's not trying to fire and it can't backfire on us. Hold our hand on here and then let it get suction. Yeah, I don't know if you can see that, but I got gas on my hand now, so it should start right up. It's close. Okay. Pull the cap again. Let's try to flood it again. Man, now my hand's not really getting wet. There we go. All right. Oh. So we're not charging. Turn the lights on and make it drain the battery a little bit. Oh, the lights were on. Okay. Let's turn the lights off. Yeah, so this should be like 13 and a half idle, maybe 14, all the way up to 14 and a half revving it. Okay, now let's find that rectifier then, so we know we have a problem with the rectifier. Alright, well the internet says it should be right back here. Should be mounted, where is it? Right here. That's where it should be. So here's what I did, is come over here, and here we can see the wires coming out. Follow that over there. Oh, we're blocked, but it is right here. Comes up and does something, and then there's actually nothing up there. And it turns out that it is actually right here. And I only know that because I've stuck my finger on it. I can feel the fins. There you go, you can see it. So that's what we need to get to. The easiest way possible. Which I still think is not going to be very easy. Alright, could have lied just a little bit. So, Torque said it'd be easier if somebody didn't mount this beautiful solenoid right here and do such an amazing job. Alright, let's try to wiggle some extensions down in there. See if we can get that out. So I got that bolt out, and then I was thinking, man, what a stupid design. Because that's just like, it's like just no good angle. And then I noticed, you know, these things have like a seal. See if I can show you the seal. Right there, that seal, that's pretty much what it looked like. And I thought, I see the broken tab on it, but is that plugged in all the way? Sure enough, I was able to plug it in. Falling. And then I started it up. How about that? Nothing wrong with that except a broken tab. So I need to fish a little silicone down in there, pop that off, squish a little silicone down in there, right in between that spot, nothing too crazy, and then just push it back on. And then that problem's fixed. Alright, turn the key on 2 times. Okay. 1, 2, there you go. Now hit the green button. Give it a little gas when you do it. Nice. Uh-oh. My battery's dying. Yep. Of course it is. Alrighty. We got ventilation hooked up now to where we can run it longer. What? I'm just talking to myself. That's how you make a video. You just talk to yourself like a crazy person. Alright, we're not revving it up real high. Just little baby revs. Yep, like that. Maybe a little bit more. Pause what we're doing. I told the owner he didn't need to order a rectifier, and then he mentioned that the cooling fan didn't come on, so we're gonna make sure it's got oil. And we're gonna make sure it has antifreeze, and then we're gonna see if the cooling fan comes on. Squeeze this tube, make sure it's not pressurized, at least too much. Oh yeah, it's got the copper stuff in it. Okay. Alright, now we're going to run it longer and get a heat gun. Make sure it doesn't overheat too bad. And see if we can get that fan to kick on. Let's see if it feels like the blades are moving or not. Feels like they're moving. It doesn't feel like it's moving very easy. But it feels like it's moving, so. So we're already at 113. Shouldn't take too long to get it up. So the sensor is right there, and we got it up to 200 and it didn't kick on. And it's like 180, 190 over there. The head's about 200, so I would say it should be on now, by now. And I noticed we got a drip over here. I'm not sure if it's coolant or oil. It's oil. I think it's leaking out of that valve cover again. Because that valve cover was warped, like big time, last time I messed with it. And I flattened it the best I could, but I guess that wasn't good enough. Alright, I got the fan connector pulled, and I've got a little battery here. Kind of sketchy, I got this all opened up like this and don't have the boot on there. Alright, so I got ground on here, which it's on a black wire, and then the other wire is like blue or something. So we touch this on here and see if the fan works. So the fan works. That means we need to let's check the sensor circuit real quick. Alright, here's the sensor that tells the fan to kick on. One thing I noticed is got a little nick in the wire with some crusties coming out of it. A little green in there. So I poked it for voltage first, didn't get any voltage. Cleaned a spot off on the frame right there to clamp a jumper. And then if we poke one of these now, we get continuity. So what we want to do is let's plug in the fan, plug the fan back in, turn the key off, run a jumper from here to here, and see if the fan turns on. Alright, just jammed a little piece of welding wire in there. I think it's in there good enough, so when we turn this key on, it should turn the fan on too. Okay. So now, what we should have did a minute ago is check this connector for the fan. Okay, so there's our ground. But if we check this other one for power, we have no power. So, one of two things is happening. Usually, these are a continuity sensor. So think of like ground comes in and it doesn't go anywhere, and then when this gets hot, like something swells and then it like hits the plate like a solenoid, and then bam, now the ground runs back through the other wire and completes the circuit for the fan. But we have ground at our fan wire, but we don't have power. So now what I think we should do is look for the fuse box and check the fuse before we do anything else. Yeah, I feel like they could have put them in a better spot. They're basically just, they look like they're plugged in, they're like connectors, but there's just like fuses in them. So none of these are blown, but this one was empty. So, I mean, we could just wing it and slap a fuse in there, but I think I'm gonna poke one of these on this end, and then we're gonna go up under here and we're gonna poke the red one on the fan. Then we'll poke the other one. We'll put this on continuity, and we're gonna look for a beep. So we're jabbed into this one with the white stripe because the white stripe is down underneath on the fan connector. So get that shoved in there, and then I'll reach under here and poke this one. Interesting, right? Which means this thing has never had a working fan, ever. Now we just need to figure out what size fuse we should put in it. We have a 15 here. There's the main, the 30. We got a 20 on this one. So let's take a look at how thick all these wires are. Let's see if I can get you in here. Alright, so we check that 30 out. See how thick that is? That boy thick! It's a thick ass boy! And then look at this 15, right? Thinner. Then look at this 20. And look at the empty one. Looks just like the 20. So we're going to stick a 20 in it. That's how you figure that out. And I say that in the most demeaning manner because if we do Outlander 330 fuse location, thanks AI, you are worthless. And then like we get this, that's not right. That's not right. That's not right. Oh, wait, is this it? Oh, look at this. There it was the whole time. 15. Alright, so we'll put a 15 in it, okay? Alright, calm down. We'll put a 15 in it. It identifies as a 15. So we can use the 15 bathroom. I don't have any 15, so that's what we got to work with. So, let's see if we melt something. Let's plug. Alright, we still got our jumper. Let's plug this back in. Leave this like this, turn the key on, and either pop a fuse, melt wires, or the fan turns on. Okay, so the key is not even on. Get up in there. It's getting a little hot. Okay, well, I think what we need to do is let's just plug this back in, and then what I'm gonna do is click please. I'm gonna get a heat gun, and I'm just gonna blast a heat gun right here because that sensor kind of works like a thermostat. So I'm just going to blast heat right here. Instead of letting this thing idle and let my kid rev it up for 15 minutes like I did last time, we'll just blast heat right here and see if we can get that fan to kick on. I'd say it works. I clean that little spot off with some brake cleaner, and then we're gonna just get a little spritz of this on here. Maybe 2 spritzes. And I noticed a little spot right here. While I was putting silicone on that and plugging in these fuses, so we're going to try to give a little spritz on that too. Hopefully that prevents something from happening in the future. Alright, not very good. Yeah, the brakes work good, buddy. So we're going to do a before and after for the carb adjustments. Here's in low, flooring it. So yeah, definitely a little boggy. Well, I was in the process of taking off this air box, pulling the carb, and I leaned over here to get them bolts out, and I noticed something. So we're at like 75 degrees. What do we have here? 90 degrees on this. Well, that's interesting. Oh, it's one of those. So you turn it off, and then you push this thing on here so it seals, and then it's on. Stupidest design ever. So I'm pretty sure I hooked this up, but in my defense, I hooked it up to the original wiring, and the original wiring is hot at all times, I guess. So that's a problem. I did this on I think it was the Arctic Cat, the big Arctic Cat video. It was like a whole bunch of parts, and he actually had an issue where the battery was dead, and he wanted me to take a look at it, and I chopped this out and wired it to switched ignition, which I'm thinking, since we had a battery problem with this, I didn't buy this, by the way. This is what he chose. He chose to buy this one. If he didn't buy this light up one, then probably wouldn't be an issue. So they make these knowing that people are just going to kind of like hot swap them with the old cigarette lighter, and they're all hot. So yeah, the people that made them are dumb. Anyway, yeah, enough bitching. So yeah, we're gonna pull this off, and then I guess I forget what's up underneath here. Guess we'll go ahead and take this off. That comes off easy enough. Can ham #1. We're probably just gonna tap into the ignition switch since it's right here. We're just gonna chop this wire. And you see what I'm talking about here? We're just gonna chop this red wire off. We'll put a piece of heat shrink on the harness side because it's still gonna be hot. and then we're gonna figure out which one of these is switched ignition, and then we're just gonna tap into that. We'll just T-tap it and then run, you know, we'll reuse the connector even. We'll just splice it with one of those, you know, butt connectors and just tap it into switched ignition. Wham, bam, done. Check this out. Peeled all this off for easier access. It didn't quite look like that. I've been poking at it. This looked like that though. And interestingly enough, and where can I put you? Oh, there goes one of your legs. Key is off. So that's one wire we don't have to poke to find switched ignition. But what in the hell happened back here? Because we got plastic. So, I mean, this is like right here-ish. Like, I don't see green, you know, melted. This looks like it got dragged on something. I don't see that anywhere. So I'm really not sure what happened. It looks like my camera is lagging, like super bad. Alright, we jabbed this one in the middle here. And yeah, first click got voltage, second click got voltage, so that's the one we want. And this other one that's left over, it only gets voltage with the lights on. I'm not sure everything this wire powers, but when you hook a phone up to like one of these things, if it's not hooked to like the proprietary fast charge block that does the handshake and it switches over from 5 volts to 9 volts to let it pull 3 amps, even though that says 3 amps, it ain't drawing 3 amps. It's gonna draw like 2 amps, maybe less than that. So I don't feel like it's a problem tapping into this wire. This wire's got some chunks taken out of it too. What's going on back here? Yep, there's pretty much definitive that it works, so. Let's see where I left this thing. I thought I left it at like 4. Let's see. So 3 3/4 is where it was at. It's close enough. I'm not pulling this thing apart. After riding it last night, I'm not gonna mess with the clip. The clip feels fine. I think it sounded boggy whenever I was like slow revving it to make heat to check the fan the first time, because it didn't have the air box on like at all. So it was getting way too much air. So, but we are going to take a look at this pilot. Probably modify this pilot a little bit. Alright, here's what we're doing. We got these baby drill bits here for jets. And what we've done is found one that fits through. It's a tight fit. Just barely drags. I don't want to get stuck in there. So then I need to figure out how big it is. 0.46. So this was a this was a 42 or 32.5. So sometimes that number can mean 0.325 millimeters. or this number can be a flow rate. So in this instance, this has either been bored out, which I doubt it, or it's the flow rate of the jet. So, but what we can do is we know that this is pretty much the inner diameter of the hole, and all we need to do is make it 10% bigger. And the closest thing I have for 10% bigger is about like this. So it might be about 15% bigger. And all of these are the same. I don't know which one's the smallest, which one's actual, like when we start twisting it. So what we're going to do, let's get this chucked up in here. Put that in there. We're just going to lay it like this because we want it to be really still. Okay, so now we have bored this out. All the way. Okay, so I think I'm about one turn out. Alright, I got a pilot jet driver, I'll show you in a minute. But basically, it's got a little line on it, and so that is all the way in. You hear the idle drop down a little bit, and that's what we're doing. We're listening. We're just listening to what the engine likes. So as soon as we start backing it out, there's a half a turn, and it starts revving up a little bit. So I'm going to turn it all the way back in, and then we do the blip test too. And then you can kind of count to see how long it takes to rev out, at least to like halfway. Right, so that was like boo, 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 you know, kind of slow. And let's go like a half a turn. All right, so there's a half a turn. A little bit better, right? And then so we're really listening for the idle. So there's one turn, the idle's higher even. That sounds way better. And then we do like 1.5. About the same. 2. About the same. You hear the idle now? The idle's lower. So there's like 2.5. The idle starts going down. So we start turning it back in. You want the idle to be like as high as, you know, the highest point basically. So we'll turn it all the way in. Half. 1. I think 1 is where it's going to be at. There's the tool. Kind of goes in and out a little bit to where if it's recessed or not. And it's just got a little flathead on there, and then it's kind of got a cutout to where it helps, you know, you can kind of hook it up in there to guide you. Alright, so we're at 1.5 with that. And then I forget what we bored that pilot out to. But this seems to be what it likes the most. The idle, super consistent, like it's not hissing and coughing, missing a beat or anything. You can't make it stumble by stabbing it. I can't say it has way more bottom end or anything. I mean, it is a 330 4x4, but I mean, it's very, very responsive as soon as you touch it. also too, it seems to start a little easier. I know it used to start kind of like an old tractor, kind of get going, and then it'd idle up. I feel like it starts up easier. Yeah, I mean, it's hot, but so yeah, the only thing left to do is just test drive it to confirm. Pretty sure it's still pissing oil out of the valve cover. I think he said he ordered, because we have a new valve cover gasket on there, and it's just that valve cover is warped. I tried to doctor it up the best I could the last time it was here, and I mean, it's obviously not doing horrible. I mean, it was pouring out last time, but it needs replaced. So I think he said he ordered an aluminum one, like an upgrade. So I got the valve cover off. It's just 4 bolts. And this is why we have a leak. That don't look too bad, right? What about that side? It's actually kind of hard to see. How about we just take this flashlight, just drop that flashlight inside of here and see what happens. There you go. Yeah, that's a giant gap, like it's huge. And so I tried to lap this on a flat surface, right? Like sandpaper and taking off material. I think the error of my ways in hindsight is that these are shouldered. So these are meant to bottom out into the head after a certain distance. So the more material that you take off of this, the less squish it has. And it had squish. The problem was the squish was in the corners, and it wasn't distributing the squish evenly because it's a freaking piece of plastic. Like, I can flex it with my hands. So, I mean, I don't know what drunk engineer thought that was good back in 2000 whatever, but obviously it was a poor design, or they wouldn't have an aluminum aftermarket part. I remember this thing having a coolant leak, and this thermostat housing was plastic, and it was basically split right here at the purge hole, the bleed hole. The whole casting split because someone over tightened it, or maybe it's split on its own. You never know. With plastic on engine parts, they get 200 degrees over and over and over. That's looking good. Alright, so test drive post pilot modification. I don't think it feels any different, and I think where we need to focus on and where we're lacking is the clutch. So we put new sheaves on this, but we also put a lighter spring on the primary because this had like an issue where it would kind of want to like pop and hard engage instead of kind of rolling on, and he wanted it to roll on. So I don't know if I don't think there's anything in between. I think it's like one or the other. You're either going to have no bottom end power because the clutch engages too early, or you're going to have it engage like you're neutral dropping it, and that's just the design of this thing. So here's we're already warmed up. Here's a pull with wide open pull with after we modified the pilot. Alright, now we'll take off in high. So there's a prime example of like the clutching. So starting to move a little bit. But you can hear how labored it is. It's really trying to rev out to get that going. Alright, so here's high floored. So once it gets going, it's good, but it's just got to get some centrifugal force built up. And so here's low, the same concept. It just engages so low off of idle that it doesn't have any time to build RPM up. So if we get moving a little bit and then hit it, so right there it's engaged good. Now if we hit it, it does way better like that. So I think our issue is going to be in the clutching to make it any better.